I never imagined that achieving the American dream at 31 would turn into my worst nightmare. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how my parents secretly promised my hard-earned home to my chronically unemployed sister during a family meeting, and how I turned their betrayal into the most powerful lesson they'd ever learn. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The day everything changed began like any other October morning, in my newly renovated colonial house in suburban Connecticut. The property wasn't particularly grand, but after 10 years of careful saving and climbing the corporate ladder at one of Boston's top investment firms, it represented everything I'd worked for. The wraparound porch still needed work, and the garage door squeaked terribly, but it was mine. All mine. Or so I thought. I'd purchased the house 2 years earlier, taking advantage of a market downturn and leveraging my excellent credit score to secure a favorable mortgage rate. The previous owners had let the property fall into disrepair, but I saw potential where others saw problems. Every weekend for those 2 years, I'd devoted myself to restoration projects, transforming the tired 1940s house into a modern home while preserving its historic charm. My younger sister, Rebecca, had taken a different path in life. While I was pulling 60-hour weeks and living frugally to save for my down payment, she'd bounced between various passion projects, a yoga instructor certification she never completed, an artisanal soap-making business that lasted 3 months, and most recently, an attempt to become a social media influencer. At 27, she still lived in our parents' guest house, her college degree in communications gathering dust while she found herself. Our parents had always handled us differently. When I earned a scholarship to Boston University, they suggested I commute from home to save money. When Rebecca wanted to attend an expensive private college out of state, they readily co-signed her loans. When I landed my first entry-level position in finance, they advised me to be realistic about my career goals. When Rebecca announced she was quitting her first job after 3 months to pursue her dreams, they celebrated her courage. That Sunday afternoon, I'd just finished installing new light fixtures in the dining room when my mother called. "Sarah, honey, we're having an important family dinner tonight. Dad and I need everyone there. No excuses." Something in her tone made my stomach twist, but I dismissed it as stress from her recent retirement from teaching. I arrived at my parents' house at precisely 6:01 p.m., parking my sensible hybrid sedan next to Rebecca's luxury SUV, a recent early birthday present from our parents, though her birthday was still 6 months away. The familiar scent of Mom's pot roast filled the air as I walked up the flagstone path, past the guest house where Rebecca's latest attempt at content creation involved scattered ring lights and a half-finished vision board. The tension in the formal dining room was immediate and palpable. Dad sat at the head of the table, unusually formal in a blazer. Mom fluttered around, rearranging the silverware with nervous energy. Rebecca slouched in her chair, scrolling through, her phone with an odd smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. Our older brother Michael, who'd flown in from Chicago, looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact with everyone. "Sarah?" my father began, using his important business decision voice, the same tone he'd used when announcing his early retirement from his accounting firm last year. "Your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking about the future, about family legacy and supporting each other." I nodded, taking a sip of water. The crystal glasses were new, another unnecessary purchase when my parents should have been focusing on their retirement savings. "The thing is," my mother jumped in, her words tumbling out rapidly, "we're worried about Rebecca. She's at a crucial point in her life, trying to establish her personal brand and social media presence. She needs a stable base to build from, somewhere she can create content and really focus on her career." I felt a chill run down my spine, even before my father cleared his throat and continued. "We've been looking at your house, Sarah. It's really too big for one person, And that home office you've set up would make a perfect recording studio for Rebecca's lifestyle videos. The water glass froze halfway to my lips. What exactly are you saying? We think you should let Rebecca move into your house, my mother said, as if suggesting I lend her a sweater. You're hardly there anyway, always at the office. And you could move into the guest house here. We wouldn't charge you rent, of course. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at Rebecca, who had finally put down her phone and was grinning openly now. Michael suddenly became very interested in his pot roast. My parents watched me expectantly, as if waiting for me to thank them for their brilliant solution. Let me make sure I understand, I said slowly, placing my water glass down with deliberate care. You want me to give up my house, the house I saved for years to buy, the house I've spent 2 years renovating, so Rebecca can use it as a backdrop for TikTok videos? Not give up, my father corrected quickly. Share. Family helps. Family, Sarah. You've always been the responsible one, the successful one. Don't you think it's time you helped your sister achieve her dreams too? The word successful hung in the air like an accusation rather than a compliment. I looked around the table, at these familiar faces suddenly made, foreign by the audacity of their expectations. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't really a family meeting. It was an ambush. And they had no idea what they'd just started. The crystal water glass made a gentle clicking sound as I set it down on the antique dining table. My mother had always been proud of that table, a family heirloom passed down through 3 generations. Now, sitting at it felt like being placed on trial, with my parents as prosecutors and Rebecca as a smirking witness. I have a counter-proposal, I said, my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. Rebecca can apply for jobs like everyone else and save money to buy her own. Oust, just like I did. I turned to my sister. The entry-level position at my firm is still open. I could put in a good word for you. Rebecca rolled her eyes dramatically, a gesture she'd perfected over years of avoiding responsibility. God, Sarah, you're so boring. Not everyone wants to be a corporate drone. I'm an artist, a creator. My content is about authentic living and following your passion. And how exactly are you planning to pay the property taxes on my house while you're being authentic? I asked, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Or the utilities? The maintenance costs? My father cleared his throat, and I felt my stomach drop even before he spoke. Well, that's the other thing we wanted to discuss. Your mother and I have been talking, and we think it would be best if we helped manage the financial aspects of the house. The implications of his words hit me like a physical blow. Manage the financial aspects? What does that mean exactly? My mother jumped in, her voice taking on that soothing tone she used when trying to convince someone to volunteer for a thankless task. We've already spoken to our lawyer. He's drawing up papers to transfer the house into a family trust. We'll handle all the expenses, the mortgage, taxes, everything. That way you won't have to worry about a thing. A family trust, I repeated slowly, the pieces suddenly clicking into place. And who exactly would control this trust? Your father and I would be the trustees, of course, my mother replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. We've managed family assets for years. It just makes sense. I turned to Michael, who had remained suspiciously quiet throughout this entire conversation. Did you know about this? He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, adjusting his tie. They mentioned something about helping Rebecca with housing last week. I told them they should discuss it with you first. Oh, they're discussing it with me all right, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. They're discussing how they've already planned to take control of my house and give it to my unemployed sister. Tell me, Michael, did they offer you any real estate when you started your law practice? That was different, my father interjected. Michael needed to be in Chicago for his career. Rebecca needs to be here, where she has a support system. A support system? I echoed. You mean where she has parents who will continue enabling her lack of responsibility? Who will happily take my house, which I bought with my own money, which I renovated with my own hands, and hand it over to her like it's a birthday present? You're being melodramatic, Rebecca sighed, returning to her phone. It's not like you'd be homeless. Mom and Dad said you could have the guest house. The guest house. I stood up slowly, pushing my chair back from the table. The guest house that's 1/3 the size of my home. The guest house where you've been living rent-free for 5 years while I worked 60-hour weeks to save for my down payment. That guest house? Sarah, please sit down, my mother pleaded. We haven't even gotten to dessert. I made your favorite, chocolate mousse. I've lost my appetite, I replied, gathering my purse. And apparently, if I don't act quickly, I'm about to lose a lot more than that. Thank you for dinner, but I need to go make some calls. Don't be difficult about this, my father warned, his voice taking on that stern tone he'd used when I was a teenager. We're trying to do what's best for the whole family. I paused at the dining room doorway, turning back to face them. No, Dad. You're trying to do what's easiest for Rebecca, just like you've always done. But this time, you're not dealing with a teenager who needs a new car or a college student who wants a spring break trip. You're dealing with a homeowner who knows her rights. And trust me, you have no idea how difficult I can be. As I walked to my car, I could hear my mother calling after me, but I didn't turn around. My phone was already in my hand, scrolling through contacts until I found the number I needed. Jennifer Chen, my colleague in corporate law, answered on the second ring. Jen, I know it's Sunday night, but I need your help. How quickly can you get a restraining order to prevent someone from interfering with my property rights? That depends, she replied, and I could hear her shifting into lawyer mode. What exactly are we dealing with? I started my car, watching through the windshield as my family gathered on the front porch, their expressions a mix of confusion and indignation. A family trust that doesn't exist yet but needs to never exist. Parents who think they can take my house and give it to my sister. And a reminder about why you should never mistake kindness for weakness. Give me an hour to review property law precedents, Jen said. Come to my office first thing tomorrow. And Sarah, document everything that was said tonight while it's fresh in your mind. As I drove home, to my home, I felt a strange sense of calm settling over me. My family had finally shown their true colors, and in doing so, they'd given me something invaluable: clarity. They thought they were dealing with the same compliant daughter who had always put family harmony above her own interests. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The following morning dawned crisp and clear, but I hadn't slept. Instead, I'd spent the night documenting every detail of the family dinner, while simultaneously reviewing my home's paperwork. The deed, mortgage documents, and renovation receipts were spread across my home office desk, a paper trail of my independence that my family seemed determined to erase. At precisely 7:30 a.m., I walked into Jennifer Chen's corner office at Morton & Associates, where I'd worked for the past 8 years. Jennifer had already been there for an hour, legal references open, on her desk and a pot of coffee brewing in the corner. Her reputation as one of Boston's top property lawyers wasn't just for show. I've reviewed your situation, she said, gesturing for me to sit down. Your parents can't legally force you to transfer your house into a trust, but there are other concerns we need to address. She pulled out a legal pad covered in neat annotations. Have you given anyone in your family a spare key to your house? The question made me pause. Yes, I admitted. My parents and Rebecca each have one, for emergencies. Jennifer's expression tightened. We need to change your locks immediately. Based on what you've told me about your sister's sense of entitlement and your parents' behavior, We can't risk them trying to move in while you're at work. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. Don't be so dramatic. I'm just going to store some of my content creation equipment in your spare room for now. Mom and Dad are helping me move it over this afternoon. I showed Jennifer the message, watching her eyebrows rise. This is actually perfect, she said, reaching for her phone. It demonstrates clear intent. I'm calling Pete Martinez at the security company now. He can have a team at your house within the hour to change the locks and install cameras. While Jennifer made the call, I opened my laptop and logged into my home security system. Sure enough, the camera I'd installed on my front porch showed a rental truck already parked in my driveway. Rebecca was directing two movers who were unloading professional lighting equipment and what appeared to be a green screen. They're already there, I said, turning the laptop to show Jennifer. They're using their key to move her things in right now. Jennifer ended her call and immediately began typing on her computer. This makes our case even stronger. I'm drafting an emergency injunction right now. Your family is attempting to take adverse possession of your property without consent. Don't confront them in person. Let me handle this through legal channels. I watched the security feed as more of Rebecca's equipment piled up on my front porch. My parents' car pulled up and I could see my mother gesturing excitedly, probably already planning where everything would go. The anger I'd felt last night transformed into something colder and more focused. What exactly does an emergency injunction do? I asked, not taking my eyes off the screen. It's a court order that will prevent them from entering your property. Without your permission, Jennifer explained, still typing rapidly. It also creates an official record of their attempted unauthorized use of your property. If they violate the injunction, they could face serious legal consequences. They're not going to like that, I said, watching as Rebecca tried her key in the door, then began pounding on it in frustration. The security company had worked fast. They're not supposed to like it, Jennifer replied. They're supposed to respect your property rights. The fact that they're family doesn't change that. She paused her typing and looked at me directly. Sarah, I need to ask you something. Are you prepared for how ugly this might get? Family property disputes can be brutal. I thought about all the times I'd compromised to keep the peace. All the times I'd watched Rebecca receive preferential treatment while I was expected to be the responsible one. All the years of hard work that had gone into buying and renovating my house, only to have my family try to take it away with casual entitlement. I'm done protecting people who won't protect me, I said firmly. Send the injunction. Jennifer nodded and resumed typing. Within 20 minutes, she had the emergency injunction ready for filing. The judge owes me a favor, she said. I can have this signed and served within the hour. In the meantime, I suggest you call the police non-emergency line. Report that there are unauthorized people attempting to move items onto your property. I made the call, keeping my voice steady and professional as I explained the situation. On the security feed, I could see my father arguing with the locksmith while my mother made increasingly frantic calls, probably trying to reach me. Rebecca had retreated to her car, likely updating her social media about how unreasonable I was being. One more thing, Jennifer said as she submitted the injunction. We should prepare for the possibility that your parents might try to claim they helped you with the down payment or renovations. Do you have documentation showing where all the money came from? Every penny, I confirmed, pulling up my financial records on my laptop. I can prove it all came from my savings and my mortgage. They never contributed anything except criticism about my choice of neighborhood. Jennifer smiled grimly. Perfect. Now, let's talk about next steps. Your family has shown their hand. They think they can bully you into giving up your property. We're going to show them exactly how wrong they are. As we began strategizing, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt and betrayal were still there, but they were being transformed into determination. My family had underestimated me, mistaking my past compliance for weakness. They were about to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between being nice and being naive. The response to the emergency injunction was swift and dramatic. By early afternoon, 2 police officers had arrived at my property to oversee the removal of Rebecca's equipment. Through the security cameras, I watched my sister's theatrical display of outrage as the officers firmly but professionally explained that she had no legal right to move her belongings into a home she didn't own. "Your sister is live streaming this on Instagram," Jennifer informed me, looking at her tablet. "She's painting herself as the victim of a cruel system that prevents creative entrepreneurs from pursuing their dreams." She paused, scanning the comments. However, most responses aren't particularly sympathetic to her position. I wasn't surprised. Rebecca had always been skilled at crafting narratives that cast her as the protagonist, but attempting to claim someone else's house crossed a line that even her most devoted followers couldn't justify. The comments flooding her livestream ranged from confused to openly critical. "What about your parents?" Jennifer asked, setting aside her tablet. "Have they attempted to contact you?" 17 missed calls from my mother, 12 from my father, and 38 text messages, I replied, showing her my phone. "I haven't responded to any of them. The last text from my father says they're deeply disappointed in my lack of family loyalty." Jennifer's expression hardened. Family loyalty should work both ways. They were perfectly willing to violate your property rights and undermine your financial independence. That's not loyalty. It's exploitation. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Michael, my brother. Unlike my parents and Rebecca, he had sent just one message. "Can we meet? Just us. I need to tell you something important." I showed the message to Jennifer. "What do you think?" She considered it carefully. "Meeting with Michael could be informative, but we need to be strategic. If you decide to meet, it should be in a public place, and you should record the conversation. Some siblings in these situations act as mediators, while others serve as information gatherers for the opposing side." I thought about Michael's uncomfortable silence during the family dinner. He was a lawyer himself. He had to have known how legally questionable our parents' plans were. Why hadn't he spoken up? "I'll meet him," I decided. "At the very least, I want to understand why he sat there and said nothing while our parents outlined their plan to steal my house." We arranged to meet Michael at a coffee shop downtown, one frequently used by lawyers and business people for informal meetings. I arrived early, selecting a table in the corner where my phone could clearly record our conversation. Jennifer had coached me on keeping the discussion focused and documenting any relevant information. Michael arrived precisely on time, looking more disheveled than usual in his expensive suit. As he sat down, I noticed dark circles under his eyes that hadn't been there at the family dinner. "Before you say anything," he began, "I want you to know that I tried to talk them out of this. For weeks, I told them what they were planning was not only unethical, but illegal. They wouldn't listen." "Weeks?" I repeated, keeping my voice level. "So you knew about this plan for weeks and didn't warn me?" He had the grace to look ashamed. I thought I could handle it internally, convince them to drop the idea before it went too far. But then Rebecca got involved, and things spiraled out of control. "What do you mean Rebecca got involved?" Michael sighed heavily. "She's the one who came up with the family trust idea. She found some articles online about how family trusts can be used to protect assets. She convinced Mom and Dad that it was the perfect solution. They could control your house while providing her with a stable platform for her brand." The pieces were starting to fall into place. And let me guess, she promised them a share of her future earnings once she becomes a successful influencer? 25%, Michael confirmed. She drew up a whole business plan, projecting millions in revenue from sponsored content and merchandise. Mom and Dad bought into it completely. They've already invested a significant amount in her equipment and platform development. I took a slow sip of my coffee, processing this information. How significant? Michael hesitated, then pulled out his phone. I did some digging after the dinner last night. They've taken out a second mortgage on their house. They've also maxed out 3 credit cards buying production equipment and paying for social media marketing courses. He showed me the figures, and I felt my stomach drop. Our parents, who should have been focusing on their retirement, had put themselves into serious debt banking on Rebecca's influencer dreams. Does Rebecca know about this? No, Michael said grimly. And that's not all. They've been hiding their financial situation from everyone. The new car they bought her, the luxury items they keep purchasing, they can't afford any of it. They're on the verge of financial collapse, Sarah. That's why they're so desperate to get control of your house. They see it as their safety net. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My parents weren't just trying to enable Rebecca's latest scheme. They were attempting to use my home as a bailout for their own financial mismanagement. Thank you for telling me this, I said finally. But why now? Why didn't you share any of this at the dinner? Michael looked down at his coffee. Because last night, after you left, I overheard them talking with their lawyer. They're not just planning to create a trust. They're considering claiming that they provided the down payment for your house. They think they can force a sale by challenging your ownership. I felt a cold anger settle over me. They're willing to commit perjury to take my house? They're desperate, Michael said quietly. And desperate people make terrible decisions. I can't be part of this anymore. Whatever you need, documentation, testimony, evidence of their financial situation, I'll help. As I left the coffee shop, I felt an odd mixture of gratitude and determination. Michael's information had given me a crucial advantage, but it had also revealed the true scope of what I was dealing with. This wasn't just about Rebecca's sense of entitlement anymore. This was about years of financial mismanagement and magical thinking coming to a head. I called Jennifer immediately. We need to expand our strategy, I told her. This just got a lot more complicated. Jennifer's office had become my war room. The polished conference table was covered with financial documents, legal papers, and printed copies of Rebecca's social media posts. The severity of my family's financial situation became clearer with each document Michael provided. Your parents have accumulated over $200,000 in debt in the past 18 months, Jennifer said, reviewing the statements. Credit cards, personal loans, and that second mortgage, all to fund Rebecca's influencer career and maintain appearances. They're making minimum payments, but barely. I studied the credit card statements, noting charges for professional cameras, lighting equipment, and something called Instagram Growth Master Course, VIP level. The amounts were staggering. They spent $15,000 on a social media mentorship program? That's not even the worst part, Jennifer continued, pulling out another document. They've missed 2 payments on their second mortgage. The bank is sending warning letters. They're about 3 months away from possible foreclosure proceedings. The reality of the situation hit me with full force. My parents weren't just trying to take my house. They were desperately grasping for a lifeline as their financial house of cards began to collapse. Their plan to seize control of my property wasn't just about enabling Rebecca, it was about saving themselves. What are our options? I asked, my mind already racing through possibilities. Jennifer laid out 3 folders on the table. Option 1. We continue with our defensive strategy. Maintain the injunction, document everything, and prepare to counter any legal challenges they might make about the house's ownership. It's solid, but passive. She opened the second folder. Option 2. We go on the offensive. File a harassment suit based on their attempted adverse possession and their threats. We could potentially seek damages for emotional distress and legal costs. It would send a strong message, but it could also push them into an even more desperate position. The third folder remained closed. And option 3? Jennifer's expression softened slightly. Option 3 is more complicated. Based on the financial documents Michael provided, we could potentially report several instances of financial misrepresentation in their loan applications. The second mortgage, in particular, appears to contain some questionable declarations about income and assets. You're saying they committed fraud? Possibly unintentionally, but yes. They significantly overstated their income and understated their existing debts. If this were reported, they could face serious consequences. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Boston skyline. The sun was setting, casting long shadows between the buildings. They're my parents, Jennifer. Despite everything, I don't want to see them face legal charges. There might be another way, Jennifer said thoughtfully. One that could protect your interests while potentially helping them avoid financial disaster. But it would require you to take a very active role. She pulled out a fresh legal pad. Instead of just defending your property or pursuing legal action, we could approach this as a family financial intervention. Use the leverage we have to force them to confront reality and make better choices. What exactly are you suggesting? We draft a formal agreement. They sign a legal document acknowledging your full ownership of your house and agreeing to cease all attempts to claim or control it. In exchange, you help them develop a financial recovery plan, with professional assistance and strict conditions. The idea was both terrifying and compelling. They'd never agree to that. They still think they're the ones who should be in control. They might, once they understand their alternatives, Jennifer replied. Right now, they're 3 months from possible foreclosure, drowning in high-interest debt, and about to lose their retirement savings. Meanwhile, you're in a position of strength, financially stable, legally secure, and now aware of their vulnerability. I returned to the table, my mind working through the possibilities. So instead of just protecting myself, I could potentially help them fix the mess they've created? Yes, but with clear boundaries and conditions. No more enabling Rebecca's schemes. No more risky financial decisions. They'd need to work with a financial advisor and follow a strict repayment plan. Most importantly, they'd have to acknowledge and respect your independence and property rights. The irony wasn't lost on me. My parents had always cast me as the overly cautious one, the one who didn't understand following your dreams like Rebecca did. Now my financial responsibility might be the thing that could save them from their own poor choices. There's one more thing to consider, Jennifer added. Rebecca needs to be part of this intervention. As long as your parents continue funding her unrealistic lifestyle, they'll never achieve financial stability. I thought about my sister, who had never faced real consequences for her choices, who had been encouraged to chase one impractical dream after another while I was expected to be the responsible one. Maybe it was time for those roles to shift. Draft the agreement, I decided. Make it comprehensive but fair. Include provisions for financial counseling and debt management, but also add clauses about future attempts to claim my property. I want this to be the last time we ever have this fight. As Jennifer began outlining the document, I felt a strange sense of peace settling over me. This wasn't the outcome I had expected when I'd walked into that family dinner, but maybe it was the outcome we all needed. Sometimes the most caring thing you can do for someone is force them to face reality. One more thing, I added. Include a clause about the guest house. If Rebecca complies with the financial recovery plan and shows proof of steady employment, for 6 months, she can rent it, at market rate. It's time she learned about earning things instead of just expecting them. Jennifer smiled as she made the note. You're not just protecting your house anymore. You're trying to help your family, build a better future. I'm doing what they should have done years ago, I replied. Setting boundaries, demanding responsibility, and showing real love. Not the enabling kind they've confused it with for so long. The conference room at Morton & Associates felt unusually tense that morning. I had chosen this setting deliberately. The professional environment would reinforce that this was a serious business matter, not another family discussion where emotions could override reason. Jennifer sat beside me, while Michael had positioned himself at the middle of the table, ready to act as a mediator if needed. My parents arrived exactly on time, looking uncomfortable in the corporate setting. My mother's usual confidence seemed diminished by the formal surroundings, while my father's expression alternated between defensive and worried. Rebecca arrived 10 minutes late, making a show of checking her phone as she sat down. "Thank you for coming," I began, my voice steady. "I've asked you here because we need to address several serious issues regarding both my property and our family's financial situation. If this is about your overreaction to our suggestion about the house," my father started, but Jennifer smoothly interrupted. "Mr. Mitchell, before you continue, I should inform you that we have documented evidence of several concerning financial matters that could have serious legal implications. I suggest you listen to what your daughter has to say." Michael opened his briefcase and began distributing folders. "I've prepared summaries of the current situation. Please take a moment to review them." The room fell silent as my family began reading. I watched their faces change as they absorbed the information, the detailed breakdown of their debt, the documented attempts to claim my property, the questionable loan applications, and the complete financial analysis of Rebecca's failed business ventures. My mother's hands began to shake as she turned the pages. My father's face grew increasingly pale. Rebecca had stopped scrolling on her phone, her carefully maintained influencer persona cracking as she saw the numbers in black and white. "How did you get this information?" my father demanded, looking at Michael. "That's not the relevant question," Michael replied calmly. "The relevant question is, what are you going to do now that you can no longer ignore the reality of this situation?" Jennifer placed a thick document in the center of the table. "We've prepared a proposed solution, one that could help you avoid bankruptcy, foreclosure, and potential legal consequences. But it comes with non-negotiable conditions." "Conditions?" Rebecca scoffed, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. "You can't dictate conditions to us. We're family." "That's exactly why I can and must," I said firmly. "Because we're family, I'm offering you a chance to fix this instead of pursuing legal action. But this ends today. The manipulation, the enabling, the attempts to take what isn't yours." I outlined the terms of the agreement. My parents would work with a financial advisor to consolidate their debt and create a realistic repayment plan. They would attend financial counseling sessions and stick to a strict budget. The second mortgage would need to be addressed immediately to avoid foreclosure. Most importantly, they would sign legally binding documents acknowledging my full ownership of my house and agreeing to cease all attempts to claim or control it. "And what about me?" Rebecca demanded. "You expect me to just give up my dreams?" "No," I replied, meeting her gaze. "I expect you to pursue them responsibly. If you want to be an influencer, do it while working a regular job, like countless others do. Show me 6 months of steady employment and compliance with the family financial recovery plan, and you can rent the guest house at market rate." "Rent?" she exclaimed. "Your own sister?" "Yes, rent, because that's how the real world works, Rebecca. Success isn't handed to you, it's earned. You want to create content about authentic living? Start by authentically earning your way." My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "Sarah, honey, I know we may have made some mistakes, but surely this formal agreement isn't necessary between family." "The agreement is non-negotiable," Jennifer interjected. "You should understand that your alternative options are extremely limited and potentially severe." My father had been quietly reading through the documents again. "The terms of this debt consolidation, they're actually quite reasonable. And you're willing to help us negotiate with the bank about the second mortgage?" "Yes," I confirmed. "I'll help you develop a viable financial recovery plan. But my house stays mine, and the enabling stops. No more funding Rebecca's schemes. No more living beyond your means. No more trying to control my assets. Those are my terms. Rebecca stood up dramatically. This is ridiculous. I'm not signing anything. My followers wouldn't. Your followers, I cut in, aren't going to pay Mom and Dad's mortgage when they lose the house. They won't pay off the credit cards you convinced them to max out for your equipment. Real influence, Rebecca, comes from making responsible choices and helping others do the same. The room fell silent. My mother was crying quietly now, while my father stared at the papers with a mix of shame and resignation. Rebecca had sunk back into her chair, her carefully curated confidence crumbling in the face of hard reality. You have 24 hours to decide, I said, standing up. Sign the agreement and commit to the recovery plan, or I'll have no choice but to protect my interests through other legal means. I love you all, but I won't let you destroy yourselves while trying to take what's mine. As I gathered my things to leave, my father spoke up. We were wrong, he said quietly. About the house, about enabling Rebecca, about everything. I see that now. It was the first time I'd ever heard him admit to being wrong about anything. Maybe it was a start. Then prove it, I replied. Sign the agreement, make the changes. Show me that you understand the difference between supporting family and enabling destructive behavior. The choice is yours. As I walked out of the conference room, I felt lighter somehow. For years, I'd carried the weight of being the responsible one as a burden. Now I finally saw it for what it really was: strength. The 24 hours following the intervention were some of the longest of my life. I immersed myself in work at the office, reviewing investment portfolios and analyzing market trends, trying to keep my mind occupied. Jennifer had advised against contacting my family during this period, explaining that they needed time to process the reality of their situation without emotional manipulation. At precisely 4:45 p.m. the next day, Michael called. They're ready to sign, he said, his voice carrying a mix of relief and exhaustion. But Rebecca's refusing to participate. She stormed out of their house this morning after a huge argument. I felt a familiar twinge of worry about my sister, but pushed it aside. What did Mom and Dad say about that? That's the surprising part, Michael replied. Dad actually told her that she needed to grow up and face reality. I've never heard him talk to her that way before. I think seeing everything laid out in black and white yesterday really shook him. An hour later, I sat across from my parents in Jennifer's office as they signed the agreement. My mother's usual perfect makeup couldn't quite hide her red-rimmed eyes, and my father's hands trembled slightly as he initialed each page. But they signed. We've already scheduled your first appointment with the financial advisor for tomorrow morning, Jennifer informed them, collecting the signed documents. She specializes in debt consolidation and retirement planning. Sarah has arranged to cover the initial consultation fees. My father looked up sharply. You don't have to do that. We've taken enough from you. This isn't taking, I said firmly. This is investing in our family's future. But it only works if you're committed to making real changes. We are, my mother said quietly. We should have listened to you years ago about so many things. We thought we were helping Rebecca by supporting her dreams, but we were just teaching her to be irresponsible. Speaking of Rebecca, my father added, she's been posting some concerning things on social media about the situation, accusing us of abandoning her, claiming we're destroying her chance at success. I had seen the posts. My sister had spent the morning sharing tearful videos about toxic family dynamics and crushing creative dreams, carefully editing out any mention of the financial realities behind our family's decisions. Let her post, I advised. Her followers can't pay your mortgage or clear your debt. Focus on working with the financial advisor and following the recovery plan. Rebecca will either choose to be part of the solution or she won't, but that's her decision to make. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a notification. Rebecca had just posted again, this time announcing her decision to leave behind negative energy, and move to Los Angeles to pursue her dreams. The post included a link to a crowdfunding campaign asking for startup support from her community. My mother reached for her phone, but my father gently stopped her. "No," he said firmly. "No more enabling. No more magical thinking. We need to focus on fixing our own situation first." I watched my father carefully. In all my years, I had never seen him refuse one of Rebecca's requests. This simple act of setting a boundary represented a seismic shift in our family dynamics. "The financial advisor will help you create a structured plan," Jennifer explained, pulling out a calendar. "You'll need to provide complete access to all your accounts and credit cards. Everything needs to be on the table. No hidden expenses. No secret cards." My mother nodded, pulling a small notebook from her purse. "I made a list last night. All the accounts, all the debts, even the store cards I never told your father about." She slid the notebook across the table, her hands shaking slightly. "It's worse than what you already know." I took the notebook but didn't open it. That could wait for the financial advisor. What mattered was my mother's willingness to be honest about their situation. "This isn't the end," I said, looking at both my parents. "It's a beginning. A chance to rebuild not just your finances, but our family's relationship with money and responsibility." "And with each other," my father added quietly. "I keep thinking about all the times we dismissed your concerns, treated your financial responsibility as something negative. We were wrong. Success isn't about grand gestures or viral moments. It's about making smart choices day after day." My mother reached across the table and took my hand. "Will you help us learn? Not just about the money, but about setting proper boundaries? We've clearly failed at that, with both you and Rebecca." "Yes," I promised. "But you have to commit to the process. No more quick fixes, no more enabling, no more trying to take shortcuts. Real change takes time and effort." As we left Jennifer's office, I noticed both my parents standing straighter, as if some invisible burden had begun to lift. They had a long road ahead, years of financial mismanagement couldn't be fixed overnight, but they had taken the first crucial step by acknowledging the reality of their situation. My phone buzzed again. Rebecca had posted another update, this time sharing her one-way ticket confirmation to Los Angeles. Part of me wanted to reach out, to try one more time to make her understand. But I recognized that she needed to learn her own lessons, in her own time. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their choices. One day at a time, I reminded my parents as we walked to our cars. Focus on the next right decision, not the whole mountain ahead. Of you? They nodded, and for the first time in years, I felt like they were really seeing me. Not as the boring, responsible daughter, but as someone whose choices they could learn from. Sometimes the strongest person in the room isn't the one making the most noise, but the one quietly building a foundation that others can rely on when their own castles in the air come crashing down. The first month of my parents' financial recovery proved more challenging than any of us had anticipated. The initial meeting with Sandra Chen, the financial advisor I'd recommended, revealed the full extent of their fiscal irresponsibility. Beyond the second mortgage and maxed-out credit cards we already knew about, there were store cards, personal loans, and even a lease agreement for Rebecca's production equipment that they'd co-signed. "Your parents' total debt load is approximately $328,000, Sandra explained during our follow-up meeting. "That's significantly higher than the preliminary figures we discussed. The interest payments alone are consuming nearly 40% of their monthly retirement income." I sat in Sandra's downtown office, reviewing the comprehensive financial analysis she'd prepared. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating spreadsheets that told a story of years of financial mismanagement. "The good news," Sandra continued, "is that we've identified several immediate steps that can help stabilize their situation. The bad news is that it will require some significant lifestyle changes they may find difficult to accept. The proposed changes were indeed dramatic. My parents would need to sell their luxury SUV and downgrade to a more economical vehicle. Their country club membership would have to be terminated. The weekly housekeeping service would need to go. Every unnecessary expense would need to be eliminated to create a workable debt repayment plan. How are they handling these recommendations? I asked, noting the detailed monthly budget Sandra had prepared. Your father is being surprisingly receptive, Sandra replied. I think seeing the numbers in black and white was a wake-up call. For him. Your mother is having a harder time adjusting, especially to the social implications of their necessary lifestyle changes. This didn't surprise me. My mother had always been intensely conscious of appearances, treating their financial stability as a reflection of their social status. The country club membership in particular had been a source of pride for her. There's something else you should know, Sandra added, pulling out another document. Yesterday, your sister attempted to open a new credit card using your parents' home address. She listed them as guarantors without their knowledge. My stomach tightened. Was she successful? No. The freeze we placed on their credit prevented the application from going through. But it shows she's still trying to maintain her previous lifestyle without understanding the consequences. I received a text from my father later that afternoon. Rebecca had called them in tears, claiming she needed emergency funds for her brand development in Los Angeles. For the first time in her life, they had said no. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, my father confessed when I called him that evening. She cried. She accused us of abandoning her. She threatened to never speak to us again. But Sandra helped us understand. We can't help Rebecca by enabling her anymore. We can barely help ourselves right now. My mother had taken the conversation particularly hard. When I stopped by their house that weekend, I found her sorting through decades of accumulated possessions, preparing for the estate sale Sandra had recommended to raise funds for debt repayment. Look at all this, she said, gesturing to piles of designer clothes and luxury accessories. So much money wasted on things that didn't really matter. Things we bought to impress people who probably never even noticed. She held up an expensive handbag, still with its tags attached. I bought this the same month we took out that second mortgage. Didn't want the other ladies at the club to know we were struggling. Now I'm selling it for a fraction of what it cost, just to help pay off the debt we accumulated trying to maintain appearances. The estate sale, held 2 weeks later, was a sobering experience for everyone. Watching their carefully curated possessions being sold off to strangers, I could see my parents grappling with the reality of their situation. But there was also a sense of relief, as if the process of letting go of these material burdens was somehow liberating. Your mother had a breakthrough yesterday, my father shared as we sorted through his home office. She was going through old photo albums and found pictures from when we first started out. Remember that tiny apartment we had when you were little? We were so happy then, even though we had nothing fancy. He paused, holding a framed photo of our family from 20 years ago. Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of what really mattered. We started measuring success by what we owned instead of who we were. And in trying to give Rebecca everything she wanted, we taught her the wrong lessons about life. The financial recovery plan was beginning to show its first small signs of progress. The estate sale had raised enough to make a significant payment toward their highest interest credit card. The car had been sold and replaced with a modest used vehicle. The country club membership had been terminated, though my mother still struggled with running into her former social circle at the grocery store. The hardest part, she admitted during one of our weekly budget reviews, isn't giving up the things. It's facing the reality that we spent years trying to create an image that we couldn't afford. And for what? The same people I was trying to impress probably have their own financial struggles they're hiding. Sandra's next report showed a small, but significant reduction in their overall debt, mainly due to the elimination of high-interest payments. It wasn't dramatic progress, but it was real, built on actual changes and hard choices rather than quick fixes or magical thinking. Your parents are actually ahead of schedule on their austerity measures, Sandra noted during our monthly review. They've cut their discretionary spending by 68%. Your father has even started picking up consulting work to generate additional income. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how much had changed in just 1 month. My parents were facing their financial reality with growing determination, even as Rebecca continued to post about her entrepreneurial journey in Los Angeles, carefully editing out the fact that she was now working as a barista to make rent. Sometimes the hardest lessons come wrapped in the most painful packages. But watching my parents slowly rebuild their financial foundation, I realized that true strength isn't about never falling. It's about having the courage to get back up and face reality, one difficult decision at a time. 3 months into my parents' financial recovery plan, an unexpected email arrived in my inbox. The sender was Rebecca, marking her first direct communication since she'd departed for Los Angeles. The subject line read, "I need to apologize." I opened the message during my lunch break, sitting in the quiet of my office. The downtown Boston traffic moved silently beyond my window as I began to read. "Sarah, I've been doing a lot of thinking, out here in LA. Things haven't gone as planned. My social media numbers are stagnant, brand deals aren't materializing, and reality has hit hard. I'm working double shifts at the coffee shop just to afford a shared room in a crowded apartment. For the first time in my life, I'm facing the consequences of my choices without mom and dad's safety net. And I owe you an apology." The email continued, detailing her struggles and revelations. She'd discovered that many of the successful influencers she'd tried to emulate had substantial financial backing or other careers supporting their content creation. The glamorous lifestyle she'd pursued was often more carefully curated fiction than attainable reality. I shared the email with Jennifer during our weekly update meeting. "What do you think?" I asked. "Is this genuine, or is she setting up for another attempt to gain access to resources?" Jennifer reviewed the message thoughtfully. "The timing is interesting. Your parents have maintained their commitment to the recovery plan for 3 months now. Rebecca has likely realized that her usual tactics won't work anymore. Sandra mentioned that she tried to open another credit card under their address last month," I reminded her. "Yes, but that was before she had to start supporting herself completely," Jennifer pointed out. "Sometimes the best teacher is necessity." That evening, I received a call from Michael, who had been keeping tabs on Rebecca through mutual friends in Los Angeles. "She's actually working," he reported. 2 jobs now, the coffee shop and weekend shifts at a photography studio. The studio owner is teaching her about professional photography and real business operations." The information aligned with the tone of Rebecca's email, but years of enabling had taught me to be cautious. I drafted a careful response. "Thank you for your email. I appreciate your honesty about your current situation. If you're serious about making changes, I'm willing to have a conversation about what that might look like. However, this would need to include complete transparency about your finances and a concrete plan for moving forward responsibly." Rebecca's reply came within hours. She agreed to share her current financial situation and asked if we could schedule a video call to discuss potential next steps. She also mentioned that she'd been following Dave Ramsey's financial advice videos, a marked departure from her usual consumption of luxury lifestyle content. Meanwhile, my parents' progress continued to surprise both Sandra and me. My father had secured several consulting clients, generating meaningful income for the first time since his retirement. My mother had taken a part-time position teaching art at a community center, something she'd always wanted to do but had considered beneath her previous social status. "Your parents have reduced their monthly expenses by nearly 60%, Sandra reported during our quarterly review. They're not just following the plan, they're actively looking for ways to accelerate their debt repayment. Your father brought me 3 different proposals last week for additional cost-cutting measures. The estate sale had expanded into a complete lifestyle overhaul. My mother had transformed their formal dining room into a home office for my father's consulting work. The country club membership card had been replaced by a library card, which she used regularly to check out books on financial management and personal growth. "The neighbors probably think we've lost everything," my mother commented during one of our weekly dinners. "But the truth is, we're finding things we never knew we had: peace of mind, purpose, real conversations that aren't about impressing anyone." The video call with Rebecca was scheduled for a Sunday afternoon. She appeared on screen in a simple work uniform, her previously perfectly styled hair pulled back practically. The carefully curated background of her previous videos had been replaced by the plain wall of what was clearly a break room. "I have a 15-minute break," she explained. "But I wanted you to see where I actually am, not some filtered version. I've been doing that too long already." She shared her current financial reality: minimum wage jobs, high living expenses, and the harsh realization that social media fame was far more elusive than she'd imagined. But there was something else in her voice, a new maturity born from facing genuine challenges without a parental safety net. "I've been following Mom and Dad's progress through Michael," she said. "It's strange. I used to think they were trying to destroy my dreams by cutting me off. Now I realize they were destroying themselves by trying to fund those dreams without any plan or reality check." The conversation continued beyond her break time, extending into what would have been the start of her shift. "My manager's been great about letting me handle personal matters," she explained. "Probably because I've never asked for special treatment before. It's amazing how people respond when you actually prove yourself reliable." As we concluded the call, Rebecca made no requests for money or assistance. Instead, she asked about the possibility of returning home in a few months, not to the guest house, but to a small apartment she'd found within her budget. She wanted to combine her new photography skills with her social media experience to start a legitimate business, one built on actual services rather than hoped-for influencer status. "I'd need to save for a few more months to afford the security deposit," she said. "And I know I need to prove myself before anyone in the family will trust my plans again. But I'm learning that real independence isn't about having everything handed to you. It's about earning things step by step." After the call, I sat in my home office, reflecting on how much had changed in 3 months. My parents were facing their financial reality with growing confidence. Rebecca was experiencing genuine independence for the first time. And I had transitioned from the family scapegoat to someone they looked to for guidance and support. The journey wasn't over. There would be more challenges and potential setbacks ahead. But watching my family members each find their own path to responsibility and self-reliance confirmed what I had always believed. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them face the consequences of their choices while being ready to support their genuine efforts to change. 6 months after the intervention, I sat in Sandra Chen's office for what would be a pivotal meeting about my parents' financial recovery. The autumn sun cast long shadows across her desk as she presented their latest financial report. The numbers told a story of remarkable transformation. "Your parents have exceeded our initial projections," Sandra began, displaying a comprehensive analysis on her screen. "Through a combination of aggressive expense reduction and your father's consulting income, they've managed to pay off the highest interest credit card debt completely. The second mortgage has been refinanced at a more favorable rate, and they're now 3 months ahead on their debt repayment schedule." The progress was evident not just in the numbers, but in the fundamental changes to their lifestyle. My father had transformed their garage into a professional home office, where he now conducted virtual consulting sessions with clients across the country. My mother had expanded her part-time teaching position into a full curriculum development role at the community center, finding genuine fulfillment in sharing her artistic knowledge with others. "There's something else you should see," Sandra continued, pulling up another document. "Your parents submitted this yesterday. It's a formal request to revise their recovery plan, not to relax it, but to accelerate it." I reviewed their proposal with growing admiration. They had identified additional areas for cost reduction and income generation. My father had secured enough consulting clients to consider it a full-time business rather than a temporary measure. My mother's curriculum development work had attracted attention from other community centers, leading to opportunities for paid workshops and training sessions. "They've also done something unprecedented in my experience," Sandra added. "They've written a formal apology to you, documenting their understanding of how their financial irresponsibility affected both you and Rebecca. They've asked me to include it in their official file." The letter was thorough and unflinching in its honesty. They acknowledged how their enabling behavior and financial mismanagement had contributed to Rebecca's sense of entitlement and lack of responsibility. They expressed deep regret for attempting to seize control of my house, recognizing it as a manifestation of their own financial desperation and flawed thinking. As I finished reading, my phone buzzed with a message from Rebecca. She had maintained regular communication over the past months, each interaction showing further growth in her understanding of responsibility and independence. This message was different, though. She had attached a business plan. "I've been working with my manager at the photography studio," she wrote. "She's been mentoring me in business operations and professional photography. I've saved enough for 3 months' rent on that small apartment I mentioned, and I have a solid plan for establishing a legitimate photography business. Would you be willing to review it?" The business plan revealed a dramatic shift in Rebecca's approach. Gone were the vague promises of influencer stardom and passive income. Instead, she had outlined a practical strategy for building a photography business focused on real estate and corporate headshots. Her projected income was modest but realistic, and she had included detailed market research and competitor analysis. Later that afternoon, I met with Jennifer to discuss these developments. The legal framework we had established had served its purpose, creating clear boundaries that enabled genuine change rather than just enforcing compliance. "Your parents have filed all the required financial disclosures," Jennifer confirmed. "They've not only adhered to every condition we set, but have actively sought ways to strengthen their financial recovery. It's quite remarkable." "And Rebecca's situation?" I asked. "Based on the documentation she's provided, including pay stubs and her savings account statements, she's demonstrated consistent employment and financial responsibility. According to our agreement, she's now eligible to rent the guest house, if you still want to proceed with that option." I considered the transformation I had witnessed in my family over the past 6 months. My parents had moved from financial denial to active responsibility, finding new purpose in the process. Rebecca had experienced genuine independence for the first time, developing practical skills and a realistic approach to building her future. The changes weren't just financial. Our family dynamics had shifted fundamentally. The enabling patterns that had dominated our relationships had been replaced by honest communication and genuine respect for boundaries. My parents now sought my advice on financial decisions, not out of obligation, but from genuine recognition of my expertise. "I think it's time for a family meeting," I decided. Not like the last one, but a chance to acknowledge progress and discuss next steps. Rebecca can join virtually from Los Angeles. The meeting was scheduled for the following Sunday. As I prepared the agenda, I reflected on how different this gathering would be from the one that had started this journey. Instead of manipulation and entitlement, we would be discussing responsibility and growth. Instead of attempting to take what was mine, my family would be sharing their plans for building their own security. My home office, once the source of such conflict, had become a symbol of the power of standing firm in one's principles while remaining open to supporting genuine change. The house itself, which my family had tried to claim through manipulation, now represented something more, a testament to the importance of maintaining boundaries while building bridges. As I reviewed Rebecca's business plan one more time before the meeting, I noticed something that brought tears to my eyes. In her financial projections, she had included a line item for housing expense, market rate rent. It was a small detail, but it spoke volumes about her transformation from entitled dependence to responsible independence. The journey had been challenging, but it had led to something I hadn't dared hope for 6 months ago. A family learning to support each other through accountability rather than enabling, finding strength in facing reality rather than avoiding it, and building genuine success through honest effort rather than magical thinking. The second family meeting could not have been more different from the first. Instead of the tension-filled dining room of 6 months ago, we gathered in my home office, with Rebecca joining via video call from Los Angeles. The space that had once been the source of such conflict now served as a symbol of our family's transformation. I had prepared a professional presentation summarizing the progress made over the past 6 months. Sandra Chen had provided updated financial reports, and Jennifer had drafted a modified agreement reflecting the family's evolution. Michael attended in his capacity as both family member and legal advisor. "Before we begin," my father said, standing to address the room, "I'd like to share something." He pulled out a small notebook, his hands steady as he opened it. 6 months ago, we sat in this room as a family in crisis, though we didn't fully understand that at the time. We thought we were here to solve what we saw as Sarah's problem, her unwillingness to share her home. In reality, we were the ones with the problem, our inability to face financial reality, and our years of enabling destructive behavior. My mother reached for his hand as he continued. "Today, I want to present our family with a different kind of proposal." He turned to the financial summary he had prepared. "Thanks to the consulting business and your mother's expanded teaching role, we've generated additional income of $84,000 over the past 6 months. Every penny of that extra income has gone toward debt repayment." Sandra's latest report confirmed their progress. Through aggressive debt repayment and careful budgeting, they had reduced their total debt by nearly 40%. The second mortgage had been refinanced at a significantly lower rate, and they had closed all but 2 credit cards, which they now used responsibly and paid in full each month. "We've also made some decisions about our future," my mother added. "We're selling the house." The announcement caught me by surprise. It's too big for us now, and maintaining it consumes resources we could better use elsewhere. We've found a smaller property that better fits our new lifestyle and financial goals. Rebecca's image on the screen showed genuine interest rather than her usual dramatic reactions. "Have you considered converting part of the new place into a photography studio?" she asked thoughtfully. "It could provide additional rental income while I build my business." The practical nature of her suggestion demonstrated how far she had come. Gone was the entitled demand for space. In its place was a business-minded proposal that considered both her needs and her parents' financial situation. "That's actually part of what we wanted to discuss," my father replied. "We've reviewed your business plan, Rebecca. It's thorough, practical, and shows real understanding of market dynamics. We'd like to propose converting the garage of the new house into a studio space, which you would rent at market rate, of course." Rebecca's response revealed her continued growth. "I appreciate the offer, but I'll need to review my projections. First, I want to make sure I can commit to the rent long-term before making any agreements. Could you send me the proposed rental terms so I can incorporate them into my business plan?" I watched my parents' reaction to this measured response. 6 months ago, they would have rushed to offer the space for free, enabling her dependency. Now they nodded approvingly at her professional approach. "There's something else we need to address," my mother said, turning to me. "We owe you more than just an apology for trying to take your house. We owe you recognition for showing us a better way to handle both finances and family relationships. She withdrew an envelope from her bag. This is a formal letter, which we've also filed with our financial records, acknowledging that we have no claim to your property and renouncing any future attempts to control or influence your assets. We've also included a detailed accounting of how your example of financial responsibility has helped us transform our own lives. The letter was comprehensive, professionally drafted, and notarized. But more important than its legal weight was what it represented: a complete shift in our family's power dynamics and understanding of boundaries. We've learned that true family support isn't about enabling or controlling, my father added. It's about encouraging each member to build their own strength and stability. Sarah, you taught us that by standing firm when we tried to take advantage of your success. Rebecca's voice came through the speakers, clear and confident. I've learned that too. My new business plan isn't about getting famous or making quick money. It's about building something real, step by step, even if it takes years. Sarah, watching you protect what you built taught me the value of earning things for myself. As we proceeded with the formal agenda, reviewing financial updates and future plans, I noticed a fundamental change in how we communicated. Gone were the emotional manipulation and entitled demands. Instead, we discussed matters as adults, each responsible for our own choices while supporting each other's growth. The meeting concluded with a series of practical agreements: terms for Rebecca's potential studio rental, timelines for my parents' house sale, and updated financial goals for the next 6 months. Every decision was documented, every commitment clear and measurable. As we prepared to end the video call, Rebecca made one final comment that demonstrated just how far we'd all come. You know, she said, I used to think success meant having everything handed to you. Now I understand it's about having the strength to build things for yourself and the wisdom to respect what others have built. The transformation in our family dynamics hadn't erased the past, but it had created a foundation for a healthier future. By maintaining firm boundaries while supporting genuine change, we had discovered a new way of being family, one based on mutual respect, personal responsibility, and earned trust rather than obligation and enabling. The weeks following our second family meeting demonstrated how significantly our family dynamics had evolved. My parents' new house search exemplified their transformed approach to financial decisions. Instead of seeking status or immediate gratification, they methodically evaluated properties based on practical considerations and long-term financial impact. We've identified 3 potential properties, my father explained during our weekly update call. Each meets our criteria for size, maintenance costs, and potential for creating Rebecca's studio space. We've prepared detailed cost-benefit analyses for each option, including projected utility expenses and property tax implications. The spreadsheets he shared revealed meticulous research and careful consideration of future financial commitments. Working with Sandra, they had calculated exactly how much house they could afford while maintaining their accelerated debt repayment schedule. The properties they selected were all well within these parameters, leaving room for unexpected expenses. My mother, who once prioritized appearances over practicality, now approached the decision with remarkable clarity. The Victorian house might look more impressive, she admitted, referring to one option they'd ultimately rejected, but the maintenance costs would strain our budget. We're choosing substance over style this time. Meanwhile, Rebecca's professional development continued to surprise and impress everyone. Her photography business plan had evolved into a comprehensive strategy that included multiple revenue streams. Beyond real estate and corporate headshots, she had identified opportunities in product photography for small businesses, leveraging her social media experience in a practical, service-oriented way. I've been shadowing senior photographers at the studio, she reported during our bi-weekly video call. Learning about lighting techniques, client management, and business operations. It's not as glamorous as being an influencer, but it's real, sustainable work. Her savings account balance steadily grew as she maintained her double-shift schedule, preparing for her eventual return and business launch. The transformation in her approach was evident in how she discussed finances. Gone were the vague promises and emotional appeals, replaced by concrete numbers and realistic projections. Jennifer had prepared updated agreements reflecting these developments. The new documents included clear terms for Rebecca's future studio rental, incorporating professional standards for lease agreements while maintaining family boundaries. Every detail was specified, from utility responsibilities to maintenance obligations. The key is maintaining professionalism within the family context, Jennifer advised during our review meeting. The agreements acknowledge your family relationships while establishing clear business parameters. This protects everyone's interests and prevents future misunderstandings. Sandra's latest financial report on my parents' progress revealed continuing positive trends. Their aggressive debt repayment strategy had reduced their total obligations by another 15%. My father's consulting business had expanded to require part-time administrative support, which he hired through a professional staffing agency rather than asking family members to help for free. Your parents have become one of my favorite success stories, Sandra shared during our monthly review. They're not just following the recovery plan anymore. They're actively seeking ways to improve their financial health. Your father attended 3 financial planning seminars last month, and your mother has started teaching financial literacy alongside her art classes at the community center. The transformation extended beyond financial matters. Our family communications had shifted, fundamentally. Instead of emotional manipulation and unspoken expectations, we now had clear, professional discussions about goals and responsibilities. Family dinner conversations focused on genuine achievements and realistic plans rather than fantasy futures and unfunded dreams. My mother's social media presence reflected this change. Her posts no longer showcased an unsustainable lifestyle, but instead shared honest insights about financial recovery and personal growth. She had started a blog documenting their journey from financial crisis to stability, helping others recognize and address similar patterns in their own lives. I received a message from Caroline Mitchell yesterday, my mother told me, referring to her former country club friend. She admitted that she and her husband are struggling with similar issues. Reading about our experience gave her the courage to seek financial counseling. It's amazing how being honest about our struggles has allowed us to help others. Rebecca's content had undergone a similar transformation. Her Los Angeles posts now focused on behind-the-scenes looks at professional photography, small business, development, and authentic discussions about building a career from the ground up. Her follower count had actually increased as she shifted from promoting an artificial lifestyle to sharing genuine insights about professional growth. I'm developing a workshop series for aspiring photographers, she explained during one of our calls. Not about getting famous or going viral, but about building real skills and understanding the business aspects of creative work. I want to help others avoid the mistakes I made. The studio space plans in my parents' future home reflected this more grounded approach. Instead of the elaborate content creation studio Rebecca had once envisioned, the designs showed a practical workspace with appropriate lighting, storage, and client meeting areas. Every element was planned with professional use and return on investment in mind. These developments reinforced what I had learned throughout this journey. True success comes not from grand gestures or quick fixes, but from consistent, thoughtful actions aligned with reality. Our family had moved from a pattern of enabling and entitlement to one of mutual respect and earned achievement. As I reviewed the latest set of agreements and progress reports, I realized that my initial stand to protect my house had catalyzed something far more valuable than property rights. It had initiated a fundamental reset in how our family approached both finances and relationships, creating a foundation for sustainable success built on responsibility rather than enabling. 8 months into our family's transformation, an unexpected opportunity arose that tested our new dynamics. A prominent real estate development firm approached me about purchasing my house for significantly above market value. They were planning a luxury condominium project in the neighborhood and saw my property as a key acquisition. The offer arrived via certified mail on a Tuesday morning. As I reviewed the terms, nearly double what I had paid for the house, my first instinct was to call my family for their input. Then I caught myself, recognizing this impulse as a remnant of old patterns. This was my decision to make, but the fact that I could now trust my family to respect that decision represented significant progress. I scheduled a meeting with Jennifer to review the offer professionally. "The terms are quite favorable," she noted, examining the documentation. "But there's something else to consider. Your sister's business plan and your parents' recovery have both been structured around their new property arrangements. How would this impact those plans?" It was a valid consideration. My parents had found a suitable new home specifically, chosen to accommodate both their financial recovery and Rebecca's future studio space. The property was in escrow, with closing scheduled for the following month. Rebecca had incorporated the studio specifications into her business plan and marketing strategy. I decided to approach this situation as an opportunity to demonstrate our family's new professional dynamic. I arranged a video conference with all relevant parties: my parents, Rebecca, Michael, Sandra, and Jennifer. Each would bring their expertise to a structured discussion of the opportunity and its implications. The meeting began with a presentation of the offer's details. Instead of emotional reactions or immediate opinions, each family member approached the discussion from their professional perspective. My father analyzed the financial implications, my mother considered the community impact, and Rebecca evaluated how different scenarios might affect her business launch. "From a purely financial standpoint," Sandra observed, "the offer provides significant upside potential. However, we should consider how this might affect the momentum of your parents' recovery plan and Rebecca's business development." The studio space in our new house was designed specifically for professional photography, my father noted, referencing detailed plans on his screen. "We've already obtained the necessary permits for commercial use and calculated the utility. Upgrades required. A change now would impact multiple aspects of our planning." Rebecca's contribution particularly demonstrated her growth. "I've run projections comparing potential locations for my studio," she explained, sharing a detailed spreadsheet. "While I could adapt my business plan to a different location, the current arrangement optimizes startup costs and market accessibility. However, I want to be clear. This is your decision, Sarah. I can and will adjust my plans based on what you choose." This professional, adaptable response stood in stark contrast to her previous entitled behavior. Instead of demanding accommodation, she presented data-driven analysis while acknowledging my autonomy in the decision. My mother's perspective reflected her own transformation. 6 months ago, I would have focused on how this offer could benefit the family financially, she admitted. Now I understand that it's not about what we could gain from Sarah's property, but about respecting her right to make decisions about her own assets. Michael, who had witnessed our family's journey from crisis to recovery, provided legal insight into the developer's offer. "The terms are solid, but there's no urgency requirement. You can take time to evaluate this decision thoroughly without pressure." As the discussion proceeded, I found myself more impressed by how we handled the situation than by the offer itself. Each family member demonstrated their growth through professional analysis rather than emotional manipulation. The contrast with our previous family meeting about my house was striking. "I appreciate everyone's input," I said as the meeting concluded. "I'll take all these factors into consideration while making my decision." What matters most is that we can have this discussion professionally, respecting boundaries while sharing relevant insights. Jennifer later commented on the meeting's significance. What we witnessed today was the real success of your family's transformation. It wasn't just about the financial recovery or professional development. It was about establishing healthy patterns of interaction that respect individual autonomy while maintaining supportive family connections. The developer's offer had provided an unexpected measure of our progress. 8 months ago, my family had tried to claim my house through manipulation and entitlement. Now they participated in a professional discussion about its potential sale while fully respecting my authority to make the final decision. This shift represented more than just improved communication or financial responsibility. It demonstrated a fundamental change in how we understood family relationships. Support no longer meant entitled access to resources or unquestioned accommodation of demands. Instead, it meant offering professional insights while respecting boundaries and individual autonomy. As I reviewed the meeting notes that evening, I realized that the true value of my house wasn't in its potential sale price, or even its role in our family's transformation. Its greatest worth lay in how it had catalyzed our growth from a family, defined by enabling and entitlement, to one characterized by respect, responsibility, and professional achievement. The decision about the developer's offer would come later, after careful consideration of all factors. What mattered most was that whatever choice I made would be respected by my family, not because they had learned to suppress their entitled demands, but because they had genuinely transformed their understanding of healthy family dynamics. The process of evaluating the developer's offer revealed how profoundly our family dynamics had evolved. Rather than making an emotional or rushed decision, I approached it with the same methodical analysis I applied to my investment clients' portfolios. Jennifer helped me create a comprehensive decision matrix that considered multiple factors beyond just the financial aspects. During a follow-up meeting with the development firm's representatives, I learned more about their vision for the neighborhood. Their planned luxury condominium project would significantly impact the community's character. The area had historically been a mix of single-family homes and small businesses, creating a unique neighborhood fabric that had attracted me initially. The offer is compelling from a pure investment standpoint, Sandra observed during our analysis session. However, your current property serves multiple purposes in your family's recovery framework. Sometimes the highest value isn't reflected in the purchase price. I conducted thorough research into the developer's previous projects and their impact on similar neighborhoods. The pattern was consistent. Property values increased substantially, but the community character often changed dramatically. Small businesses frequently struggled with rising rents, and long-term residents found themselves priced out of their own neighborhoods. My father's consulting business had given him insight into commercial real estate development. During our weekly update call, he shared his professional perspective without trying to influence my decision. Based on my analysis of similar developments in comparable areas, the initial offer likely has room for negotiation. However, the community impact considerations you've raised align with the values you've always demonstrated in your investment decisions. This objective, professional input stood in stark contrast to his previous attempts to control my property decisions. He now offered expertise while fully respecting my autonomy to make the final choice. Rebecca's evolving business plan had incorporated detailed market research about the neighborhood's demographics and business environment. The current community composition actually provides an ideal client base for my photography services, she explained during our video conference. Small business owners need product photography, families want portraits, and the local real estate market supports regular photography work. A luxury development might provide higher-end clients, but could also eliminate many of the small business opportunities I've identified. Her analysis showed remarkable growth from her previous focus on social media fame. She now understood market dynamics and business sustainability in a way that demonstrated genuine professional development. My mother's perspective had shifted, dramatically from her previous preoccupation with status and appearances. "I've been volunteering at the community center near your house," she shared. "The neighborhood has such a strong sense of community, the kind of environment that supports small businesses and helps them grow. It reminds me of the area where your grandmother's bakery thrived." The mention of my grandmother's bakery sparked a memory. She had chosen that location specifically because she believed in the power of community to sustain small businesses. Her success hadn't come from chasing the highest profit potential, but from building lasting relationships within a stable neighborhood. After 2 weeks of careful analysis, I scheduled another family meeting to share my decision. The professional growth my family demonstrated during this process had reinforced my confidence in their continued recovery and development. After thorough consideration of all factors, I began, sharing my screen to display the detailed analysis. "I've decided to decline the developer's offer. While the financial return would be substantial, the current property serves important functions that align with our family's values and growth objectives." Instead of disappointment or attempts to change my mind, my family responded with thoughtful questions about my decision-making process. My father inquired about the financial projections I'd used. Rebecca asked about how this decision would affect the neighborhood's business development potential. My mother expressed interest in the community impact considerations. "I've also made another decision," I continued. "I'm going to invest in improving the property's long-term value through sustainable upgrades and community-oriented enhancements. This includes converting the detached garage into a flexible workspace that could serve various professional purposes." This announcement sparked a productive discussion about sustainable property development and community investment. My father offered insights from his consulting experience about energy-efficient upgrades. Rebecca shared ideas about creating multi-purpose professional spaces that could support various small business needs. "This decision reflects something important about our family's transformation," Michael observed. 8 months ago, this property was seen as something to be claimed and controlled. Now, it's viewed as a platform for sustainable growth and community contribution. Jennifer later commented on how this decision process demonstrated our family's evolution. "The professional manner in which everyone approached this situation shows how far you've come. Instead of emotional manipulation or entitled demands, we saw reasoned analysis and respect for boundaries." The developer's offer had provided an unexpected opportunity to measure our progress. Through this process, we had demonstrated that our family's transformation went beyond surface changes or temporary compliance. We had developed new patterns of interaction based on professional respect, clear boundaries, and shared values. As I filed the formal response declining the offer, I reflected on how this decision aligned with both my personal values and our family's continued growth. The house that had once been a source of conflict had become a symbol of our transformation and a foundation for future development based on sustainable principles rather than quick profits. The implementation of my property improvement plan became an unexpected catalyst for further professional development within our family. I approached the project with the same methodical planning I applied to my investment strategies, beginning with a comprehensive assessment of the property's potential and the community's needs. Working with a respected local architect, I developed plans to transform the detached garage into a multi-purpose professional space that would enhance both property value and community engagement. The design incorporated sustainable materials and energy-efficient systems, reflecting a long-term investment perspective rather than quick profits. My father's consulting experience proved valuable during the planning phase. "I've reviewed the contractor proposals," he said during our project meeting, sharing his screen to display a detailed analysis. "Based on my experience with similar renovations, I've identified several areas where we could optimize costs without compromising quality. I've also researched local suppliers who prioritize sustainable materials." His input demonstrated how thoroughly he had embraced professional analysis over emotional decision-making, Instead of trying to control the project, he offered expertise while respecting my authority as the property owner. Rebecca's photography business planning had evolved to include potential collaboration with other local entrepreneurs. The mixed-use design you're considering could support various small business needs, she explained, sharing market research she'd conducted. I've identified several photographers and creative professionals in the area who are seeking flexible workspace. This could create opportunities for professional networking and resource sharing. Her approach showed remarkable growth from her previous focus on individual success to understanding the value of community collaboration. She had developed a business model that recognized the importance of sustainable relationships and mutual support. My mother's involvement with the community center had given her unique insight into local needs. Several of my art students are small business owners, she shared during our family update meeting. They've expressed interest in professional development workshops and collaborative workspace. Your improvement plans could help fill that gap in the community. The transformation of our family dynamics was evident in how we approached this project. Instead of entitled demands or attempts at control, each family member contributed professional expertise while maintaining appropriate boundaries. Our weekly project meetings focused on practical considerations and sustainable development, rather than personal agendas. Sandra's latest financial review highlighted the strategic nature of these improvements. The planned upgrades align with current market trends toward sustainable, community-oriented spaces, she noted. While the initial investment is significant, the potential for long-term value creation extends beyond simple property appreciation. The contractor selection process provided another opportunity to demonstrate our family's professional growth. When a well-known construction firm offered preferential terms because of my father's industry connections, we evaluated the proposal objectively rather than automatically accepting personal favors. While their bid is competitive, my father observed, reviewing the documentation, the local contractor has more experience with sustainable renovation projects and stronger community relationships. Sometimes the best business decision isn't about who you know, but who can best execute the vision. Jennifer helped structure agreements that would govern the future use of the renovated space. These documents establish clear parameters for professional use while maintaining your control over the property, she explained. They create a framework for community engagement without compromising your ownership rights. The construction process itself became a model of professional project management. Regular updates were shared through structured reports rather than casual conversations. Decision-making followed established protocols, with clear documentation of all changes and approvals. Rebecca's involvement demonstrated her continued professional development. She created a photographic record of the renovation process, building a portfolio that showcased both her technical skills and her understanding of professional documentation. I'm learning that successful business relationships require the same attention to detail as successful projects, she reflected during our project review. My mother's perspective on the improvements reflected her own transformation. Watching this project unfold has taught me something important, she shared. True value isn't about immediate gratification or impressing others. It's about creating something sustainable that contributes to both personal growth and community development. As the renovation neared completion, the impact of our family's transformation became increasingly evident. The project that might once have sparked conflict and entitled demands had instead fostered professional collaboration and mutual respect. Each family member had contributed their expertise while maintaining appropriate boundaries and respecting my authority as the property owner. The renovated space embodied our new approach to family relationships and professional development. Solar panels and energy-efficient systems demonstrated long-term thinking over quick profits. The flexible design supported community collaboration rather than individual gain. Every aspect of the improvement reflected careful planning and sustainable principles. This project had provided another measure of our progress. 9 months ago, my family had attempted to seize control of my property through manipulation and entitlement. Now they participated in its improvement through professional expertise and respected boundaries, demonstrating that our transformation went beyond surface changes to fundamental shifts in how we approached both business and relationships. The completion of the property improvements marked a significant milestone in our family's journey. The transformed space stood as a testament to what could be achieved through professional collaboration and mutual respect. The former garage had become a state-of-the-art multi-purpose facility, complete with sustainable features and flexible workspace designs that served various professional needs. During the official inspection, the city's sustainability coordinator specifically commended the project's innovative approach. This renovation sets a new standard for community-oriented development, she noted, reviewing the solar integration and energy management systems. It demonstrates how private property improvements can contribute to broader neighborhood sustainability goals. My father's consulting business had gained valuable expertise through his involvement in the project. Several of my clients have expressed interest in similar sustainable renovations, he shared during our final project review. The documentation and processes we developed could serve as a model for other property owners looking to create professional spaces that benefit both their investments and their communities. His approach to these new opportunities demonstrated continued professional growth. Instead of rushing to capitalize on potential quick profits, he developed a structured consulting framework that emphasized sustainable development and community engagement. This methodical approach reflected how thoroughly he had embraced professional principles over short-term gains. Rebecca's photography business plan had evolved significantly through her documentation of the renovation process. Working on this project helped me understand the value of professional specialization, she explained, sharing her updated portfolio. I've identified a niche market in architectural and sustainable development photography. Several contractors have already inquired about hiring me to document their green building projects. Her career development showed remarkable maturity. Rather than chasing influencer fame, she had discovered how her skills could serve real market needs. Her business model now focused on building professional relationships and delivering concrete value to clients. The community response to the improved space exceeded expectations. Local business owners and professionals began inquiring about using the facility for workshops and collaborative projects. A group of environmental consultants proposed hosting sustainable development seminars in the space, aligning perfectly with its design principles. My mother's involvement with the community center had created natural connections to potential users. Several of my students run small businesses that could benefit from professional workspace, she shared during our facility planning meeting. They appreciate how the design supports both individual work and community collaboration. Sandra's financial analysis of the completed improvements validated our strategic approach. The initial investment has already begun showing returns through increased property value, she reported. More importantly, the operational model you've developed creates sustainable revenue streams while supporting community development goals. The success of this project led to an unexpected opportunity. The local Business Development Council invited me to join their advisory board, specifically citing the renovation as an example of responsible property development. This recognition came not from pursuing status or influence, but from implementing sound business principles that benefited both private interests and community needs. Jennifer helped structure a comprehensive facility usage agreement that protected my property rights while maximizing community benefit. These documents establish clear operational guidelines while maintaining professional standards, she explained, reviewing the final drafts. They create a framework for sustainable facility management that could serve as a model for similar projects. The transformation of our family dynamics was particularly evident in how we handled this success. Instead of trying to leverage my achievement for personal gain, each family member focused on how they could contribute professionally to the project's ongoing success, while respecting established boundaries. My father's consulting business developed a case study on the renovation, documenting the sustainable features and community benefits. This project demonstrates how professional expertise and community engagement can create lasting value, he observed during his presentation to a local business group. Success isn't just about financial returns. It's about building sustainable systems that benefit everyone involved. Rebecca's professional growth continued to impress. She developed a specialized photography package for sustainable development projects, combining her technical skills with her understanding of environmental design principles. I'm learning that sustainable success comes from finding where your skills meet real market needs, she reflected during our monthly business review. My mother's perspective on the project reflected her own ongoing transformation. Watching this space become a community asset has taught me something valuable, she shared during a family dinner. True success isn't about individual achievement or status. It's about creating opportunities that help others grow while maintaining professional standards and clear boundaries. The improved property became a symbol of our family's evolution from crisis to sustainable success. What began as a conflict over ownership had transformed into a model of professional collaboration and community engagement. Each family member had found ways to contribute meaningfully while respecting boundaries and maintaining professional standards. As I reviewed the project's impact reports, I realized that our family's journey had created something more valuable than just improved property. We had developed a framework for sustainable success based on professional principles, clear boundaries, and mutual respect. The transformation of physical space had paralleled our transformation as individuals and as a family. The success of the property renovation project began generating unexpected opportunities that tested our family's continued commitment to professional growth and boundary maintenance. A prominent business magazine featured the project in an article about sustainable community development, drawing attention from investors and developers interested in replicating our model. During a presentation to the local Chamber of Commerce, I shared our approach to balancing private property rights with community benefit. The response was overwhelming, with several property owners requesting guidance on implementing similar improvements. This interest led to a decision point that would demonstrate how thoroughly our family dynamics had evolved. We should consider developing a formal consulting framework, my father suggested during our weekly family meeting. The expertise we've gained through this project could help other property owners implement sustainable improvements. However, I want to be clear that this is your intellectual property. Any consulting structure would need to respect your ownership of the concept while allowing for professional collaboration. His approach demonstrated remarkable growth from our previous family dynamics. Instead of attempting to capitalize on my success, he proposed a structured business arrangement that acknowledged proper boundaries and professional standards. We engaged Jennifer to develop a formal agreement that would protect everyone's interests while facilitating collaboration. Rebecca's professional development had positioned her perfectly to contribute to this expansion. I've developed a comprehensive documentation protocol for sustainable renovation projects, she explained, sharing her portfolio during our planning session. It combines technical photography with progress reporting in a format that helps property owners communicate their improvements to stakeholders. Her business model had evolved far beyond her initial influencer aspirations. She now approached her work with professional rigor, focusing on delivering measurable value to clients rather than chasing social media fame. The transformation in her approach reflected deeper changes in how she viewed success and professional achievement. My mother's involvement with the community center had created valuable connections that supported our expansion plans. Several local business organizations have expressed interest in hosting workshops about sustainable property development, she reported. They're particularly interested in how our model supports both business growth and community engagement. Sandra's financial analysis of the expansion opportunity revealed promising potential. The consulting framework you're developing could create significant value while maintaining professional boundaries, she noted during our review meeting. The key is structuring it to ensure sustainable growth rather than quick profits. The process of developing this expansion demonstrated how thoroughly our family had embraced professional principles. Instead of rushing to capitalize on opportunities, we approached each decision methodically, considering long-term implications and maintaining clear boundaries. Regular planning meetings focused on sustainable development rather than immediate gains. My father's consulting business began incorporating sustainable development principles into all his client engagements. This experience has transformed how I approach property development, he shared during a strategy session. Success isn't just about financial returns. It's about creating lasting value while maintaining professional standards. Rebecca's photography services expanded to include comprehensive documentation packages for sustainable development projects. I'm discovering that professional success comes from solving real problems, she reflected during our monthly review. Clients value my work because it helps them communicate their environmental commitment effectively, not because I have a large social media following. The impact of our family's transformation extended beyond our immediate circle. Other families, in similar situations, began seeking guidance on establishing professional boundaries and sustainable business practices. My mother's blog about our journey attracted attention from readers facing comparable challenges with entitled family members and financial enabling. Jennifer helped structure a series of agreements that would govern our expanded operations. These documents establish clear parameters for professional collaboration while protecting individual rights, she explained, reviewing the frameworks. They create a foundation for sustainable growth while maintaining appropriate boundaries. The success of our approach attracted interest from educational institutions. A local business school requested permission to develop a case study about our family's transformation from crisis to sustainable success. The professor leading the project particularly noted how maintaining professional boundaries had facilitated genuine growth and development. My father's perspective on our journey reflected profound changes in his understanding of success. A year ago, I thought helping family meant removing obstacles and providing resources, he shared during a family dinner. Now I understand that true support means respecting boundaries and encouraging professional development. Rebecca's business growth demonstrated the value of our transformed approach. Her client base expanded steadily, with each project building on professional relationships rather than social media metrics. I've learned that sustainable success comes from delivering real value, she observed during her quarterly review. The followers and likes don't matter if you're not solving actual problems. As our expansion plans took shape, the contrast with our previous family dynamics became increasingly clear. The property that had once been a source of conflict had become a catalyst for professional growth and sustainable development. Each family member contributed their expertise while respecting boundaries and maintaining professional standards. The consulting framework we developed emphasized long-term value creation over quick profits. Training materials incorporated lessons from our family's transformation, helping other property owners implement sustainable improvements while maintaining professional relationships. Every aspect of the expansion reflected our commitment to responsible development and clear boundaries. 1 year after the initial family crisis, our transformation had created impacts far beyond what any of us had imagined. The sustainable development consulting framework we had established was generating significant interest from property owners and business leaders across the region. More importantly, it demonstrated how maintaining professional boundaries could lead to sustainable success for everyone involved. During a keynote presentation at a regional business development conference, I shared insights from our journey. The audience included property developers, business owners, and families facing similar challenges with entitlement and enabling behaviors. The response reflected how our experience resonated with others, struggling to balance family relationships with professional standards. My father's consulting practice had evolved into a respected authority on sustainable property development. The principles we learned through our family's transformation have become fundamental to how I advise clients, he explained during a strategy session. Success requires clear boundaries, professional standards, and a commitment to sustainable growth rather than quick profits. His client base had expanded significantly, but more impressive was how he approached these opportunities. Instead of pursuing rapid expansion, he maintained a deliberate pace that ensured quality service and sustainable relationships. Each engagement incorporated lessons from our family's journey, helping other businesses establish professional frameworks that supported long-term success. Rebecca's professional development had exceeded all expectations. Her photography business now specialized in documenting sustainable development projects, combining technical expertise with strategic communication. Understanding how to maintain. Professional boundaries has been crucial to my success, she shared during her annual review. Clients trust me because I deliver consistent value, not because of family connections or social media influence. Her portfolio included projects across the region, each demonstrating her evolved approach to business development. Rather than seeking quick fame through viral content, she built lasting client relationships based on professional service and measurable results. The transformation in her business model reflected deeper changes in how she viewed success and achievement. My mother's involvement with the community center had expanded into a comprehensive program supporting professional development. Watching. Our family's transformation inspired me to help others navigate similar challenges, she explained during a program review. The key is understanding that true support means encouraging independence and professional growth rather than enabling dependency. Sandra's financial analysis of our first year demonstrated the effectiveness of our approach. Your family's transformation has created a sustainable model for professional development, she noted during our annual review. The financial results are impressive, but more significant is how you've maintained clear boundaries while supporting genuine growth. The impact extended beyond immediate financial returns. Other families began seeking guidance on establishing professional boundaries and sustainable business practices. Our experience provided a framework for addressing entitlement issues while maintaining supportive family relationships. Jennifer helped develop standardized agreements that other families could adapt to their situations. The key element in your success has been maintaining professional standards while allowing for genuine growth, Jennifer observed during a planning session. These agreements provide structure without stifling development, ensuring that boundaries remain clear as relationships evolve. My father's perspective on our journey reflected profound understanding of sustainable success. We thought we were facing a crisis when Sarah stood firm about her property rights, he shared during a family strategy meeting. In reality, we were receiving an opportunity to transform how we approach both business and family relationships. Rebecca's business success demonstrated the value of this transformation. Her client base continued growing through referrals and professional recommendations rather than social media metrics. I've learned that sustainable growth comes from delivering consistent value, she noted during her business review. The relationships I'm building now are based on professional respect rather than personal obligations. The consulting framework we had developed attracted attention from business schools and professional organizations. Requests for case studies and presentations increased as others recognized the value of our approach to balancing family relationships with professional standards. Each opportunity to share our experience reinforced the importance of maintaining clear boundaries while supporting genuine development. My mother's program at the community center became a model for professional development initiatives. The participants learned that success isn't about getting quick help or avoiding challenges, she explained during a program evaluation. It's about developing the skills and understanding needed for sustainable achievement. The property that had initially sparked our family crisis had become a catalyst for broader transformation. The renovated space hosted workshops and training sessions helping other families establish professional boundaries and sustainable business practices. Each event demonstrated how maintaining appropriate standards could support genuine growth and development. As we prepared for our second year of operations, the contrast with our previous family dynamics was striking. Instead of enabling dependent behaviors or seeking quick solutions, we focused on sustainable development and professional standards. Each family member contributed their expertise while maintaining appropriate boundaries and respecting individual achievements. The success we had achieved went far beyond financial returns or professional recognition. We had developed a framework for sustainable growth that balanced family relationships with professional standards. Our experience demonstrated that maintaining clear boundaries didn't limit success. It created the foundation for genuine achievement and lasting transformation. 18 months after our initial family crisis, I found myself preparing for a presentation at an international business conference focused on sustainable development and professional growth. The organizers had requested that I share our family's journey from conflict to collaboration, recognizing how our experience could benefit others facing similar challenges with entitlement and enabling behaviors. As I reviewed our documentation and achievements, the magnitude of our transformation became clear. The property that had once been a source of conflict had evolved into a catalyst for sustainable success, not just for our family, but for the broader community. The sustainable development framework we had established was now being implemented by property owners and businesses across multiple states. During a pre-conference planning session with Jennifer, we discussed the lasting impact of maintaining professional boundaries. Your family's experience demonstrates a crucial principle, she observed, reviewing our presentation materials. When you establish clear boundaries and maintain professional standards, you create opportunities for genuine growth rather than limiting success. The financial results validated our approach. Sandra's comprehensive analysis showed that our sustainable development initiatives had generated significant returns while maintaining steady, controlled growth. More impressive than the financial metrics, she noted during our review, is how you've maintained professional standards throughout your expansion. Each new opportunity has been evaluated based on long-term sustainability rather than quick profits. My father's consulting practice had become a recognized authority in sustainable property development. His client base included major developers and property owners seeking to implement similar community-oriented improvements. The transformation in how we approach business has been profound, he shared during a strategy meeting. We've learned that sustainable success comes from maintaining professional standards while supporting genuine development. His evolution from enabling parent to respected consultant reflected deeper changes in how he understood success. Rather than trying to clear obstacles for his children, he now focused on helping clients develop sustainable solutions through professional guidance and clear boundaries. His consulting framework incorporated lessons from our family's journey, helping others avoid the pitfalls of entitlement and enabling behaviors. Rebecca's professional achievement particularly demonstrated the value of our transformed approach. Her photography business had expanded into a full-service documentation agency specializing in sustainable development projects. Understanding the importance of professional boundaries changed everything, she explained during her business review. Success isn't about leveraging family connections or social media influence. It's about delivering consistent value through professional service. Her client portfolio now included major development firms and environmental organizations, each relationship built on professional expertise rather than personal obligations. The transformation in her business model reflected fundamental changes in how she approached success, focusing on sustainable growth rather than quick recognition. My mother's professional development program at the community center had grown into a regional initiative helping families establish healthy boundaries and sustainable business practices. Watching our family transform inspired me to help others navigate similar challenges, she shared during a program evaluation. The key is understanding that true support means encouraging independence and professional growth. The impact of our experience extended beyond immediate business results. Other families facing similar challenges with entitlement and enabling behaviors sought guidance on establishing professional boundaries while maintaining supportive relationships. Our framework provided a structured approach to addressing these issues, demonstrating how clear boundaries could facilitate genuine growth. Jennifer helped develop standardized agreements that other families could adapt to their situations. Your experience shows that professional standards and family relationships can reinforce each other when properly structured, she noted during a planning session. These agreements provide the foundation for sustainable growth while maintaining appropriate boundaries. The property improvements that had initially seemed like a potential source of conflict had become a model for sustainable development. The renovated space hosted regular workshops and training sessions, helping other property owners implement similar improvements while maintaining professional standards. Each event demonstrated how proper boundaries could support genuine achievement. As I prepared for the conference presentation, I reflected on the profound changes in our family dynamics. The crisis that had begun with an attempt to claim my property had led to a transformation in how we understood success and support. Instead of enabling dependent behaviors or seeking quick solutions, we had developed a framework for sustainable growth based on professional standards and clear boundaries. My father's perspective on our journey reflected this deeper understanding. We thought maintaining professional boundaries would limit our family relationships, he shared during our final preparation session. Instead, it created the foundation for genuine growth and sustainable success. We've learned that true support means encouraging independence rather than enabling dependency. Rebecca's business success demonstrated the lasting value of this approach. Her agency continued growing through professional referrals and demonstrated expertise rather than personal connections or social media metrics. Building a sustainable business requires more than just talent or opportunities, she observed during her latest review. It requires understanding how to maintain professional boundaries while delivering consistent value. The consulting framework we had developed attracted increasing attention from business schools and professional organizations studying sustainable development. Requests for case studies and presentations provided opportunities to share our experience with others facing similar challenges. Each engagement reinforced the importance of maintaining clear boundaries while supporting genuine growth. As I finalized my presentation materials, the contrast with our previous family dynamics was striking. The property that had once been a source of conflict had become a catalyst for transformation, demonstrating how professional boundaries could support sustainable success. Our experience showed that maintaining appropriate standards didn't limit achievement. It created the foundation for lasting growth and development. 2 years after that fateful family dinner where my parents attempted to claim my house, I stood at the podium of the International Business Development Conference, preparing to deliver the keynote address on sustainable growth and professional boundaries. The audience included business leaders, property developers, and families seeking guidance on transforming entitled relationships into professional collaborations. The journey that began with protecting my property rights had evolved into a comprehensive framework for sustainable success. Our family's transformation had not only resolved the immediate crisis, but had created lasting positive change that extended far beyond our immediate circle. The sustainable development model we had established was now being implemented across multiple industries and communities. During my presentation preparation, Sandra had provided updated financial analysis, demonstrating the long-term impact of our approach. Your family's transformation exemplifies how maintaining professional boundaries creates sustainable value, she noted, reviewing the comprehensive reports. The financial returns are impressive, but the real achievement is how you've established a replicable model for professional growth while preserving family relationships. My father's consulting practice had become the gold standard for sustainable property development. His client list included major corporations and government agencies seeking to implement community-oriented improvements. The principles we learned through our transformation guide every aspect of our operations, he explained during our pre-conference meeting. Success isn't about quick solutions or avoiding challenges. It's about building sustainable frameworks that support genuine development. Rebecca's professional evolution particularly demonstrated the lasting impact of our transformed approach. Her documentation agency had expanded internationally, with offices in 3 major cities specializing in sustainable development projects. Understanding professional boundaries changed my entire perspective on success, she shared during her latest business review. It's not about leveraging connections or chasing influence. It's about creating genuine value through consistent professional service. The property that initially sparked our crisis had become a recognized model for sustainable community development. The renovated space hosted international delegations studying how to implement similar improvements while maintaining professional standards. Each visitor learned how proper boundaries could support genuine achievement and community growth. My mother's professional development program had expanded into a national initiative helping families establish healthy business practices and boundaries. Our family's journey showed me that true support means encouraging independence, she reflected during a recent program evaluation. Watching others transform their relationships through professional boundaries reinforces the value of our approach. Jennifer's standardized agreements had been adopted by business schools as case studies in professional relationship management. Your family's experience demonstrates that clear boundaries enhance rather than limit success, she noted during our final review. These frameworks provide a foundation for sustainable growth while protecting individual rights and professional standards. The consulting practice we had developed received recognition from international business organizations studying sustainable development. Regular requests for guidance and training provided opportunities to share our experience with global audiences. Each engagement reinforced how maintaining professional boundaries could support genuine growth and achievement. During the conference, I shared specific examples of how our transformed approach had created lasting positive change. The property improvements that began as a source of conflict had generated sustainable value for the entire community. Our family relationships, strengthened by professional boundaries, demonstrated how clear standards could support genuine collaboration. My father's perspective on our journey reflected profound understanding of sustainable success. We initially saw professional boundaries as obstacles to family support, he shared during the panel discussion. Now, we understand they're essential for genuine growth and achievement. Our transformation showed that true success comes from maintaining standards while encouraging development. Rebecca's business achievements validated this approach. Her agency continued expanding through professional excellence rather than personal connections. Building a sustainable enterprise requires more than skills or opportunities, she observed during her conference presentation. It requires understanding how professional boundaries create the foundation for lasting success. The impact of our transformation extended beyond business results. Families facing similar challenges with entitlement and enabling behaviors found hope and guidance in our experience. Our framework demonstrated how maintaining professional standards could strengthen rather than weaken family relationships, creating opportunities for genuine growth and achievement. As I concluded my keynote address, I reflected on the profound changes in our family dynamics. The crisis that began with attempted property seizure had catalyzed a transformation in how we understood success and support. Instead of enabling dependent behaviors or seeking quick solutions, we had developed a sustainable framework based on professional standards and clear boundaries. The contrast with our previous family dynamics was striking. The property that once sparked conflict had become a symbol of transformation, demonstrating how professional boundaries could support lasting achievement. Our experience showed that maintaining appropriate standards didn't limit success. It created the foundation for sustainable growth and development. The legacy of our transformation continued growing through the lives we touched and the changes we inspired. Each family that adopted our framework, each business that implemented our principles, and each community that embraced our approach to sustainable development carried forward the lessons we had learned about the power of maintaining professional boundaries while supporting genuine growth. 2 years after standing firm to protect my property rights, I stood before an international audience sharing how that decision had created lasting positive change. Our family's journey from crisis to transformation demonstrated that true success comes not from enabling entitled behavior or avoiding challenges, but from maintaining professional standards while supporting genuine development. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.